No one believed a human and alien could love until this happened. Snowfall on Varelia was not gentle. It came like a storm of glass, shards of frozen mist that tore through the air with needle-like precision. Beneath the fractured skyline, broken steel ribs of the human outpost jutted out from white dunes like bones of a long-dead colossus. The fire had long died. All that remained now was silence and the scent of burned circuitry. Rune staggered from the collapsed control tower, plasma rifle hanging low in one hand, the other gripping his bleeding shoulder. Echo 4, anyone copy? He rasped into the dead comm unit strapped to his chest. Static, of course. He limped forward. Each step over the snowpack crunched against the silence like a scream. The HUD inside his cracked visor blinked sporadically. No life signs within range, no friendly tags, no response from command. The outpost had fallen 6 hours ago, overwhelmed by something that hadn't even shown on scans. They called it biological entropy. Rowan called it slaughter. He reached the ridge above the crash zone where the last dropship had been torn in half mid-liftoff. Metal was twisted in knots. Bodies, if they had once been human, were frozen into abstract shapes of bone and cloth. Rowan looked away. That's when he heard it. Not a sound, a pulse. Subtle, organic, not through his ears, through his chest. A rhythm, a heart. Rowan's body reacted before his mind caught up. He turned left, scanning, listening. It was close. Beneath the broken wing of the dropship where the snow had melted into a steaming pool of violet light. A figure. She lay half buried in the wreckage, limbs splayed, one leg twisted unnaturally under a support beam. Her skin glowed with soft luminescence, lavender gray, threaded with bioluminescent veins that pulsed gently in the snowlight. Long white-silver hair spilled across the ice like threads of starlight. She was alien, not just any alien, Pulsekeeper. Rowan cursed under his breath. You've got to be kidding me. They were supposed to be extinct, legends of Varelia. Biological avatars of the planet itself, symbiotic beings connected to the planetary core, living relics, no confirmed sightings in decades. And now, one lay dying at his feet. Rowan leveled his rifle. Her chest rose barely. She was breathing. He hesitated. His orders were clear. Eliminate non-human biological anomalies, especially if there's a contamination risk. Extraction protocol was voided. No rescue, no contact, no exceptions. But still, that pulse, it beat again. Not hers, his. Rowan dropped to one knee, uncertain. Her eyes fluttered open, slits of storm cloud gray glowing faintly. She didn't speak, just looked at him. He raised the rifle higher. Then, her heart skipped a beat. So did his. The HUD on his visor flickered, displaying a second biosignal. Integrated, not separate. What the hell? He reached out instinctively, brushing aside a twisted piece of debris. As his gloved hand touched her arm, flash. A streak of light arced between them, a fine thread of pure white surging from her skin into the center of his palm. Rowan gasped, falling backward, clutching his chest. Something moved inside him. Not a parasite, not a toxin, a presence, warm, curious, unafraid. She blinked. You felt it too. Her voice was soft, melodic, and faintly accented. Alive. Rowan stared. His heartbeat was echoing in sync with hers. Not metaphorically, literally. What are you? He asked, voice low. She didn't answer right away, but he heard the reply. Not in sound, in feeling. I am the pulse between this world and yours. He lowered his weapon, and realized with terrifying clarity that whatever had started, he couldn't turn back. Snow fell silently into the ravine. Rowan pressed his back against the smooth crystal wall of the crevice, holding Siriel close. Her breathing was shallow but steady, each inhale casting a faint bioluminescent glow from the veins in her throat. The pulse between them still throbbed, soft, steady, unrelenting. They had hidden here at dusk. The storm above had swallowed the sky, turning it from pale gray to absolute white. No drones could track them through this storm. No human signal could reach the depths of this ravine. Down here there was only stone, silence, and a heartbeat that wasn't his. Rowan looked down at her again. Siriel's body was light, but not fragile. Her skin shimmered faintly, as if Varelia's atmosphere itself responded to her presence. She didn't speak much since the connection began. Neither did he. They didn't have to. He felt her pain in his own spine. He felt her pulse skipping each time she tried to move. He felt her fear, then her quiet, exhausted hope. Rowan gently unlatched the emergency thermal lining from his coat and wrapped it around both of them. We'll move at first light, he muttered, not expecting an answer. She replied with her thoughts instead. We won't be alone when the light comes. Rowan blinked. What do you mean? But her eyes were already closing. A faint shimmer pulsed between them once more, running from her wrist into his. And then, he dreamed. He was standing in a white room. Clean, cold, bright lights above, humming like insects. To his left, a little girl sat on a hospital bed, brunette, smiling, swinging her legs. Daddy, she said, can we go home now? Rowan tried to speak, but the words caught. The lights flickered. The wall behind her cracked open like paper and fire surged in. Her eyes turned to him just before the explosion hit, and all he saw was light. He screamed. When he woke, his hands were shaking. Snow had stopped falling. Siriel was still in his arms. But she was looking at him now, eyes open, alert, studying him. You saw her, she whispered. Rowan didn't speak. I saw her too, she said. She called you daddy. He tensed. How the hell? You touched me. I touched you back. Your pain echoed through me while I slept. She lowered her voice. She was beautiful. He turned away. She was 6. Silence. I'm sorry, Siriel said softly. Rowan's throat tightened. Worse the death. No one had ever said that before. Not the officers. Not the doctors. Not even the priests who blessed the rubble after the bombing. But here she was, some half-mythical alien survivor, lying against his chest with glowing skin, and her voice sounded like forgiveness. I didn't mean for you to see that, he said hoarsely. You didn't show me. I felt it. Her hand drifted lightly over his chest, where the pulse shimmered beneath his skin, just like I felt you feeling me. Rowan frowned. What does that mean? Siriel paused. Then she guided his hand to her abdomen. He expected to feel warmth or breath. Instead, he felt a third pulse, very faint, very new. Rowan's blood turned to ice. What is that? Siriel's voice was nearly inaudible. Our resonance. The bond, it wasn't passive, not anymore. Rowan pulled his hand away, eyes wide. You're saying? I'm not saying anything, she whispered, but something has begun. He stood, pacing. No, that's not how biology works. Not across species. Not without. You felt it, she cut him off, sitting upright now. It's not about reproduction. It's about synchronization. You touched my wound. You let me in. The planet recognized it. It responded. He stared at her, trying to anchor his mind in something rational. But then she looked at him, truly looked, and he knew she wasn't lying. He could feel it, not just through his skin, through the very fibers of his being. There was something new inside her. And it was not just alive, it was listening. That night, he didn't sleep. Siriel lay beside him, not speaking, her body curled inward. Rowan sat at the edge of the narrow hollow, staring at the jagged moon of Varelia rising over the peaks. He could feel 3 pulses now, his, hers, and the third. All in rhythm, all in sync. Something beyond him had started. And deep below the snow-covered surface of the planet, Varelia pulsed back, as if answering. Rowan had been shot at, crushed, electrocuted once by accident, and half-eaten by a plant on Orion 5. But nothing prepared him for the look Siriel gave him that morning. She was glowing, literally. Not in a romantic way. More in the, I might be undergoing rapid biocellular fusion kind of way. Soft pulses of light shimmered just beneath her skin, more vivid than the night before. That's new, Rowan muttered, squinting. I think your DNA is still arguing with mine. She said dryly, touching her belly. But they've agreed to disagree, for now. Good. Let's not turn this into an interspecies custody battle. She gave a half smile, rare and tired, but it warmed something in him. The crevice had shielded them through the night, but the scanner on Rowan's wrist began to flicker. A signal, Alliance Tech, weak but inbound. Company, he said, rising. Human. Siriel sat up slowly. Will they help? Rowan didn't answer. The dropship touched down half an hour later, kicking up clouds of crystalline snow. Rowan stood in full view, rifle lowered, Siriel cloaked in thermal sheets behind her eyes. He made the signal. Standard rescue. The loading ramp hissed open. Rowan's stomach tightened as Major Elias Lorne stepped out. Well, hell, Lorne said, squinting at him. If it isn't Rowan Dre, the ghost of Omega Ridge. Rowan forced a smirk. Didn't expect to see your pretty face this far out. You weren't supposed to survive, Lorne said, walking forward. This sector's been black flagged. Biocontamination event. Yeah, I noticed. Rowan gestured vaguely to the smoking landscape. Bit of a mess. Lorne's eyes narrowed. Where's your evac team? Rowan shrugged. Vaporized, I'm all that's left. Lorne's voice dropped. That's not what our sensors say. Rowan's heartbeat quickened. Sensors malfunction a lot out here. Lorne tilted his head. Cut the crap, Rowan. We picked up a Class 7 biopulse last night. Something ancient, something alive, and it's moving with your tag. Behind Rowan, the snow shifted. Siriel stepped forward. She had pulled her hood back. Light trailed behind her in faint waves. Her eyes were sharp, unreadable. She looked at Lorne like she'd seen his type before and was unimpressed. Rowan stepped between them. She's not a threat, Lorne laughed, a short, cruel sound. You bonded with it. She's not an it. Oh, you've got feelings now? Lorne's tone sharpened. You're the one who used to teach us never to hesitate, never to let emotion override survival. Rowan's jaw clenched. Lorne took a step forward. You were the best we had, Rowan. You buried half your unit under a mountain to prevent spread on Arcadia 9. And now you're breaking protocol for glowing cheekbones and a pretty pulse? Rowan didn't flinch. This isn't a contamination. It's an evolution. You're compromised. Maybe. But I'm also alive. Thanks to her. Lorne gestured. 2 troopers flanked him, weapons raised. She comes with us. Command wants her studied, her physiology, her link to the planet. We'll keep her stable. Rowan's voice turned cold. Like you kept the Tovari child stable on Aero Station? A flicker of guilt crossed Lorne's face, then was gone. Don't make this hard. Rowan looked at Siriel. She gave him the smallest nod. Then Rowan moved. Fast. He ducked left, grabbed the flashbang from his hip, and hurled it into the snowbank behind Lorne. It exploded in a burst of heatless white light. Blinding, dazzling, non-lethal. Just enough. Before the troopers could react, Rowan pulled Siriel close and dove into the snow. His hand slammed a remote on his belt. Boom. A smoke charge went off in the distance, clouding sensors. Seconds later, an old evac pod buried in the ravine cracked open. Manual override engaged. Get in, Rowan growled, tossing Siriel inside. He slammed the hatch behind them and yanked the controls. The pod rocketed upward. Below them, Lorne's voice screamed through the comms. Rowan, you're going to be court-martialed for this. Rowan leaned back in the shaking pod. Been court-martialed twice already. 3rd time's for love. As they broke through the lower stratosphere, Siriel gasped and clutched her chest. Rowan spun. What's wrong? Her eyes flared with biolight. The child, it senses something. Below. Rowan blinked. Below what? But she wasn't answering him. Instead, the ship's guidance system began blinking erratically. A second later, the pod veered hard, like it had been pulled by gravity that wasn't there. What the hell? Through the viewports, Rowan saw it. A canyon hidden beneath the planet's upper crust, glowing with ancient veins of bioluminescence forming perfect spirals, like a neural pattern. Like something alive was waiting beneath the ice. The child is guiding us, Siriel whispered. The ship turned, not under Rowan's control. A hidden passage opened in the crust of Varelia, light pulsing outward in rhythm with that 3rd heartbeat. Rowan didn't speak. He just watched as the planet itself made way for them. The light swallowed them. The pod plunged deeper through layers of crust and memory, through tunnels no map had charted, drawn not by machines but by memory, resonance, biology. Rowan gripped the controls, though they responded to nothing. It was Siriel who steadied him, not physically but through the pulse. It throbbed from her skin, guided the pod, echoed in the very air. He whispered, You sure this isn't a hallucination? She smiled faintly. If it is, we're sharing it. And it's flying us toward a planetary nerve cluster. The ship slowed. Ahead, a vast cavern opened like a lung exhaling mist. Bioluminescent tendrils hung from the ceiling like roots reaching down, glowing in rhythm with the heartbeat Rowan now knew wasn't just his or hers. It belonged to something larger, older, something alive. And at the center of the chamber floated a sphere of liquid light, pulsing with a low harmonic sound. Rowan's breath caught. What is that? Siriel stepped forward, swaying slightly. The womb core. We shouldn't be able to see this. The sphere shimmered, casting dancing glows across their skin. It pulsed in sync with Siriel's body, then shifted. To Rowan's horror, she stumbled, hands pressed against her belly. Hey, talk to me, Siriel! She collapsed to her knees, breathing shallow. Rowan dropped beside her, grabbing her shoulders. It's drawing energy, she whispered. From me. No, not from me, from the child. Rowan froze. The sphere brightened, glowing with deeper tones of red and violet. It's feeding on the connection, Siriel said. Or maybe the child is feeding on it. He stared at the womb core. That doesn't sound reassuring. She tried to laugh, but it turned into a gasp. You always complain when things get weird. Excuse me, I prefer surprisingly exotic. Weird is when someone kisses their cousin in a bar. Another contraction of light rippled through her body. Rowan made his decision. He tore off his gloves. You said before, resonance, shared pulses. What are you doing? I don't know, he admitted. But if you're going to burn out, I'm going with you. Romantic, she muttered. Yeah, well, he touched her forehead. I never did learn how to let people die quietly. He pressed his palm to the sphere. The pulse responded. Light surged between them. Not heat, not pain, just connection. The hum deepened. Rowan cried out as images, memories, instincts poured through him. His childhood, her birth, his grief, her exile, the silence, the song, and then the third voice, not his, not hers, but theirs. Soft, unformed, not words but emotion, wonder, listening. He saw himself standing at the edge of a cliff, Siriel by his side. But no ground beneath them, just light curving inward like a spiral. The child wasn't in her arms. The child was the cliff, the light, the air. They weren't carrying the child, they were inside it. Rowan awoke. He was lying on the warm floor of the chamber, Siriel beside him. She opened her eyes slowly. We're still alive? Disappointing, I know. She gave a tired laugh, then looked toward the womb core. It had changed. The light was no longer chaotic. It shimmered in layered patterns, mandalas of pulse and memory. At its center was no longer a raw glow, but a form. Small, humanoid, floating. And then slowly it faded. The whole core dimmed, its brilliance retreating into itself. Siriel gasped. It's not being born. Rowan sat up. What? It's not coming out. It's going in. He stared at the sphere. The child wasn't seeking life, it was seeking integration. It's merging with the planet, he whispered, becoming part of Varelia itself. The walls vibrated gently as if confirming. The womb core pulsed one last time, once strong and slow, and then dimmed to a resting glow. Silence fell. Siriel trembled. Rowan crawled beside her, held her as the resonance slowly faded from their bones. He didn't want to be born yet, she murmured. Rowan touched her cheek. He's not gone. No. She placed her palm on the stone floor, on a smooth, glassy patch where the sphere had floated. And there, beneath her hand, a tiny flicker pulsed once more. A soft, quiet heartbeat. The planet screamed, not in sound, but in light, in tremors, in feeling. Rowan and Siriel stood at the mouth of the womb chamber, breathless, skin still tingling from the resonance. But the ground beneath them quivered and the mist outside shimmered red. They're coming, Siriel said. He's calling them. Who? Rowan asked, but he knew. Above the surface, the Alliance had returned, armed with full orbital clearance. They didn't see a miracle. They saw a threat. A sonic boom cracked the sky as the warship Red Judgment pierced the upper atmosphere. Major Lorne stood at the helm, armor black polished, face unreadable. Around him, soldiers barked orders, sensors scanning the living terrain with suspicion. Pulse anomaly spreading underground, a tech reported, rooted in a single focal chamber. Lorne nodded. That's our target. You want full containment? No, full erasure. He paused, then added quietly, and find Rowan. Meanwhile, below, Rowan and Siriel climbed the ribbed tunnel that had brought them down. But it had changed. The walls pulsed in quiet waves of color, responding to them. It remembers us, Siriel said. Or him. Good. Maybe it'll give us a lift. The ground did shift beneath them, gently, like a mother moving her children closer to safety. In minutes, they stood at the opening of the surface cave. That's when they saw the drop pods, dozens, slamming into the ground in sync, like rain with teeth. Here comes diplomacy, Rowan muttered. They didn't run. They stood. As the first squad approached, weapons raised, Siriel stepped forward, not glowing, not armed, just open. Rowan whispered, "This is suicide. This is trust." He looked at her quiet calm, at the subtle glow beneath her skin that now pulsed not with defense but with welcome. Then a voice shouted, "Stand down and surrender." Rowan raised his hands, but Siriel raised nothing, just her gaze. One of the soldiers, young, uncertain, hesitated, then his rifle snapped up and fired. Rowan moved on instinct, diving forward, shielding Siriel. The plasma bolt grazed his shoulder, burning deep. "No!" Siriel cried, and the pulse exploded outward. Not with fire, not with force, but with memory. The soldiers staggered. Around them, light fractured the air and became images, visions. The soldier who shot saw his brother in the hospital, Rowan's daughter, Siriel's mother, love lost. Regret buried. pain no one else saw. Every human in the clearing dropped their weapons, not because they were defeated, but because they were seen. Then Lorne arrived, and everything froze. He stepped through the line of stunned soldiers, expression granite. Siriel stared at him. "You bring war to a child's cradle." "She's not a child," Lorne said. "She's an anomaly." "She was an anomaly," Rowan corrected. "Now she's a part of this world." Lorne raised his weapon. "Then we burned the world," and fired, but the bolt never landed. It curved mid-air and split. One half struck the cave wall, the other spiraled toward Rowan and stopped, suspended, glowing, breathing. The pulse shimmered in Rowan's chest. His heart surged, not with panic, but with memory, with grief, with her name, Mira. Siriel gasped and Lorne staggered. He dropped to one knee. His weapon fell. He wasn't looking at them. He was seeing her, Rowan's daughter. The bombing, the screams, the failure, but not through his own mind, through Rowan's. Tears welled in his eyes. What is this?" Rowan stepped forward, wounded arm hanging limp. "No virus, no power, just connection. You can kill a body, Lorne, but what if pain could speak louder than bullets?" Lorne looked at his hands, then at Rowan, and lowered his head. The soldiers didn't cheer. They didn't need to. The air was different now, not silent, but listening. Above them the clouds parted, not from storm, but from signal. The child wasn't gone, it was awake, and watching. The tremor stopped. Above, the warships halted mid-descent. On the ground, soldiers stood like statues, some with weapons lowered, some simply staring at their own hands as if remembering something they'd buried. At the center of it all, the cradle of light. Siriel knelt beside it, one hand hovering over the translucent floor of the womb chamber. Her skin had paled. The glow from within her dimmed. Rowan saw it before she said a word. "You're fading." She didn't deny it. "The bond took more than I had to give," she whispered. "The child drew from me, from everything." Rowan fell to his knees in front of her. "Then take mine." A weak smile touched her lips. "It doesn't work like that, Rowan." He leaned in, pressed his forehead against hers. "Since when do we do things the right way?" The chamber pulsed again, slower now, not from collapse, but like a breath being held. The child's presence still shimmered within the crystalline cocoon that had formed after the resonance. It wasn't dead, it wasn't gone, it was resting, yet its power was growing, uncontained, unformed. The crust above them cracked in places. Flora around the chamber lit up in synchronized patterns. Birds overhead moved as one, flocks spiraling like galaxies. "The planet is listening to her," Siriel said, voice trembling. "Or she's becoming the planet?" Rowan replied. She nodded. "And that's the problem." Outside, commanders debated. The Alliance spoke of containment fields. The Pulse Keepers warned of spiritual imbalance. Diplomats whispered of war. Lorne, silent among them, simply looked down into the chamber and saw something none of them could. Rowan, carrying Siriel in his arms, walking back toward the cocoon. "She needs to sleep," Siriel said, barely audible. Rowan looked at her, holding her fragile weight. "You mean forever?" "Not forever, just until the world is ready to feel again." They reached the crystal. It pulsed once, like a heart sinking to their steps. "She hears us," Rowan said, "even now." He looked up. The ceiling above them shimmered, not breaking, not falling, breathing. Then he heard it. The child's voice, not a sound, but a wave of thought, gentle and clear. "I will wait. I will listen. When they are ready, I will wake." Siriel pressed her hand to the cocoon. Light wrapped around her fingers, curling gently. A soft warmth passed through her, like a lullaby meant for a mother. Then the light faded from her skin, and the cocoon sank. Slowly. Downward into the earth, not vanishing but becoming part of it, like a heartbeat retreating into sleep. Rowan stood in the silence. No light, no pulse, just the faint curve in the chamber floor, still warm to the touch. Siriel leaned into him, too weak to speak. He held her, kneeling, hands flat against the cocoon's last glow. Then a single pulse beat back under his palm. A flicker, a whisper. He smiled through his tears. "She's not gone," he murmured. Siriel closed her eyes. "She's waiting." Above, the diplomats never saw what happened below, but the tremors stopped. The winds calmed. The song ended. And in its place, stillness, not absence, but listening. Ash drifted in the wind. It wasn't from fire, but from the petals of the Varelian drum trees, blossoming after centuries of silence. Their bioluminescent flowers glowed with soft pulses, releasing seeds like floating embers. Above them, twin moons passed close in the sky. Rowan stood on the cliff's edge, arms crossed, coat fluttering. Behind him, a new station, sleek alloy merged with breathing stone, rose from the skin of the planet. Not a fortress, a listening post. The listening cradle, the diplomats called it. Built in the crater where a child once slept, built by those who once tried to destroy her. Inside the cradle, Siriel leaned against a curved wall of living glass, eyes closed, skin luminous again, though faintly. "Better today?" Rowan asked, entering with a steaming cup. She took it, sniffed. "You still can't brew Varelian root tea correctly." "Hey, I followed the pulse pattern on the kettle this time." "You boiled it like a barbarian," Rowan smirked proudly. She sipped anyway, then smiled. "Still terrible." He sat beside her, looking through the wall. Down below, biotechs and engineers of both species worked side by side, grafting machinery with moss, signal towers with root systems. "Not bad," Rowan muttered, "for a planet that tried to kill me 3 times." Siriel's hand slid over her abdomen. "She's not done with you yet." Rowan turned. "Wait. I think I'm pregnant." He blinked. "I wait. This time?" "This time," she nodded. "It wasn't the child choosing us. It was us choosing life." Rowan exhaled, as if he'd been holding it for years. Then grinned. "Well, that complicates things. Terribly." They laughed together. Not far from them, inside the council chamber, holograms flickered. Representatives argued over protocols, weapon limits, trade rights, but no one suggested leaving the planet. No one dared to cut ties. Too many had felt the pulse. Too many still dreamed of a glow beneath the earth. At night, Siriel and Rowan walked to the ridge. They stood in silence. The wind carried dust and seeds and a low hum from the planet itself. "She still listens," Siriel whispered. Rowan took her hand. "No one knows what she'll be when she wakes." "Neither did we," she replied. "Do you think they'll accept her someday?" Siriel smiled. "They already are." She looked down at her belly. "We're just giving them time." There was no music, no ceremony, no broadcast, just them, standing alone on the edge of the world. Siriel's hand rested lightly on her belly. Rowan's fingers curled around hers, their warmth steady. Beneath their feet, the living stone of Varelia thrummed with a rhythm only they could hear, a pulse, soft, ancient, alive. Above them, the sky turned violet. The twin moons aligned just for a moment, casting a silvery path across the horizon. And there, at the center of it all, a single point of light glowed faintly beneath the surface, the place where a child once chose to sleep. Not in death, but in waiting. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. The silence between them was full of memories, of laughter, of grief that had been turned into hope, of a shared breath carried across 2 species, across 2 bodies, across time. Rowan looked at her. She met his gaze, and between them 1,000 words passed without sound. "I remember. I feel you. I choose you." Somewhere beneath them a pulse responded. Not strong, not urgent, but patient, like a heartbeat that remembers. And the world did not end. It listened, it breathed, it waited. She sleeps beneath the surface where no war can reach and no lie can echo, but her heart still beats. One day, when we're ready, she will wake. This is Sci-Fi Sky.